So this is something I actually learned from competition. You can change your temperature, you can change your recipe, you can change your dripper, but it's not going to make a big difference. I started my coffee journey around almost 5 years ago, and I actually used to just like drinking good coffee. I never thought I'd end up working in coffee, except that COVID hit in France, and with my ex-partner, we were in lockdown. And then what happened was that we had a lot of time on our hands, and so we wanted to do something that we love, which is coffee. Where we lived in Champaign, we didn't have any coffee shops. And so we thought, oh, why not roast our own coffee since we can't get out to buy coffee? And so one thing led to another. We started roasting, and we started creating our website. We sold coffee online. And then I just got so into it. And I thought, okay, how else can I learn more about coffee? Yeah, I did the Q grader, I did like other tests, but I thought I wanted to push myself even further. I wanted to learn more. And so that's when I signed up for the Brewers Cup competition in 2021 for the first time. It went really badly. Like I had a really bad overtime. And then in 2022, I went back and I won. And ever since I went on the world stage like them, I got addicted. And I'll be using my favorite grinder, which is this one, the A4Z from Femobook. So have you guys used this grinder before? It's a fully automatic machine, so you can bring it anywhere, and it's super light. It's around like 2 kg, and all you have to do is actually, you press a button here, and then you put your coffee inside. So it's very good for home use. Usually I use this in the morning when I'm lazy to grind my coffee, because you're able to achieve a very balanced cup with very clarity of flavors. And so you just let it, and in the meantime, you can prepare other things. So with this grinder, you have 300 different grind sizes, and with each small click, the difference is 0.008 mm, so it's very, very small. And right now, I'm at 5.3. Perfect. Do you guys want to smell this? So it's super floral, white floral notes, a little green. So it has a magnet here, and all you have to do is you have to pop it here. And also the charging is just in the back of the Type-C. Super easy, it has a very good autonomy, and usually I charge it like once every 3 weeks, and I brew coffee every morning with the grinder. So the A4Z, another thing special about this is that it removes any form of dryness that you might have, because you don't have a lot of fines from the grind setting, and so you always have a very smooth and pleasant aftertaste if you're using the right water. So this is very important. Have the right water, and if you have a grinder, this can be one way in which you can remove the dryness in your aftertaste. So I'm brewing with my favorite dripper today. It's a Hario Mugen Switch. I put 16 grams of coffee in here, and I'm at 53, and I'm on the second round. Clicks on the A4Z. So start the timer, and as you can see here, the switch is closed. I'm gonna start with a blooming in immersion. So what this does is that it saturates all the coffee particles very, very quickly, and I'm able to achieve a higher extraction. So I'm letting my bloom sit for 30 seconds, and I'm gonna pour again. And what I'm doing here is I'm doing a double full immersion, so my valve is closed. I'm gonna pour up to 215 grams of water, and we're just gonna wait. So in the meantime, what this grinder is very good for is in the morning, if like, let's say you don't have a lot of time, and you wanna just have your coffee grinded, and you want a very good grind, this is great for filter coffee. Yeah. So I find that in my cup, for instance, in this cup of coffee, it really brings us the citrus acidity and the clarity of the flavors. So I'm letting this immerse. And with this method, usually the thing that I control is the grind size and the time. My temperature is usually around 91 degrees Celsius. That I try to keep constant. And the only thing I change is just the grind size. So depending on what I'm looking for in that cup, let's say I taste this cup of coffee and I want to bring out the clarity even more, then with the Femobook, you can go, let's say, like 10 clicks even coarser, and automatically you'll feel the difference. So now it's 2 minutes and 5. We will release the switch. Do you guys usually make filter coffee at home? Yeah? What grinder do you guys use at home? Sorry? Mikino, okay, yeah, a hand grinder. I love hand grinders as well. But I have to admit, there are many moments where sometimes in the morning I'm just tired. And so having like this grinder, it has made me a bit lazy, but it's also because I'm so satisfied with the cups of coffee that I make with it, that I'm just like... So the good thing about this Hario switch that I'm using is that you can play with different recipes. You can have 6 different recipes. The one I did here is a 2-step full immersion. So basically, I kept the switch closed the whole time. In the first pour, I poured up to 50 grams of water. and then I waited for 30 seconds, and I poured again to 215 grams of water. What this does is that it creates a lot of agitation, and the coffee will extract a lot faster so that I can reduce my brew time, and I can also grind a little finer than usual. And this really extracts more of the fruity flavors from a coffee like the one I'm brewing today. So this is a coffee from Hamasho village in Ethiopia, and it's also a very special lot because this is a coffee from Archers in Dubai, and I'm very close with them. In this coffee, you will smell the white floral notes in the aroma, like jasmine, a touch of orange blossom. And then on the palate, it's almost like jasmine tea, a little bit of like sweet lemon, and it has a very lingering, long finish. So actually, I usually travel with a ZP6, and I use this when I'm at home. Because I have actually blind tasted the two cups next to each other. They're very different. I think the ZP6 will give you like a more balance. This one will give you more clarity, especially when you're brewing like wash coffees from Ethiopia. So let's say the cup just now, I really liked, but I feel like I can even bring out a little bit more clarity. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna adjust the click setting a little bit. So right now you see I'm at like around 54. Well, let's try to go a bit coarser and reach almost 6. And I think that we'll have more of the lemon, the citrus notes that I'm looking for. Perfect. So 16 grams of coffee. So the button is over here on the left. You press start. Slide the coffee in. And then you can just wait. In the meantime, we can do other things. So for those of you that have tried the first cup, if you guys want to stay and try the second cup and see how the slight grind size will make a little bit of difference. So I personally like to use this at home. I think like if you have a coffee shop, for instance, then maybe something like the A68 would be very suitable. Yeah, there, enjoy. 16 grams of coffee, and now I just went up to around 5.9 here on the Femobook on the A4Z. My water temperature is at 91 degrees Celsius. I'm keeping all my variables constant, and I'm changing just one variable, which is grind size. And let's see what that's going to change to my cup. So let's start with the bloom. Up for 30 seconds. And I also like to use this Mugen Switch because it's made of plastic, and so the heat retention is a lot higher. You don't have to compensate with, like, let's say, a higher temperature. When I'm using a glass dripper, I like to push up 2 degrees Celsius in general more than the plastic, just because the temperature drops really quickly. And another thing also is that it is flat inside. You have some star-shaped groove lines, and so there's almost no channeling. And again, I'm pouring up to 215 grams of water. And we're just gonna wait. We're gonna wait for 2 minutes and 5 seconds, and then we'll release the switch. So this was actually the dripper that I used in my World Stage competition last year in 2024. And when I do like guest shifts or pop-ups like this, I just feel like the immersion really allows me to have a more consistent cup, because I've been making a few brews here in Jakarta, and I feel like dryness was very consistent. So with the immersion, the brew is just more evenly extracted. So my total brew time is 3 minutes right now. There we go. Okay. I always like to mix my brew. Just make sure it's even. So in this brew, if you remember the first one, it's a lot clearer here. Because of the slightly coarser grind size, even just with a few clicks, you have this new note of bergamot, a little bit like sweet brown sugar, a touch of tropical fruit. Just now it was a little like muted, I think, and right now everything's just a lot clearer. So to be honest, like I was pretty surprised at first, because I didn't used to use automatic grinders until like I received one grinder from the World Championship, and I started using it. And then eventually I just feel like after doing lots of blind tests, this one has so much clarity, and the mouthfeel is always very smooth. So for any home brewer, I think it's nice to have an automatic and also a manual, just so like you can switch between both and also do a lot more tests without needing to like grind all the time as well. So next I'm gonna brew a coffee from Kenya, Gakuyuini AA. And I think with this grinder, it brings out the sweetness, because the thing I don't really like about Kenya's is that usually it's always just a little like tomato-like or too much acidity. But what I found that this grinder really highlights is the sweetness, the brown sugar sweetness in this Kenya. That balances out a lot better. So right now, I'm gonna change my grind size and I'm gonna go a little coarser. Because I know that this coffee is a little denser. And in order for my brew not to clog, I have to go slightly coarser to compensate for that. Oh, okay. Wait. I find sometimes with this coffee, I find that it's either like too acidic or sometimes it's like very floral but it lacks the sweetness. But for some reason with this grinder, like it kind of brings this extra balance. Oh, perfect. Let's rinse the filter paper. So my coffee is already grounded. So here I'm using 17 grams of coffee. I'm just waiting the water to go up to 91 degrees Celsius. So right now I'm gonna do a different recipe. Earlier I did a full immersion in 2 stages. Now with the switch, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with the immersion for the blue, but then for the next one, I'm gonna release the switch. And I'll show you and tell you more about what that does. But let's start with the bloom first. So I'm gonna go up to 50 grams of water. Just give it a good swirl, breaking all of the channels, saturating all the particles, and then you can just wait. And so the method that I'm using right now that I like to call is called the hybrid method. What that means is that I'm gonna start with immersion, and once I've reached 30 seconds, I'm gonna release it. And then you're gonna watch your coffee bed, and you're gonna brew again when it's dry. So at 45 seconds, I'm gonna continue pouring and use this as a regular Mugen Switch with no immersion. So let's pour up to 150 grams of water. Basically what I did was I did a hybrid method. So the first part of my bloom was an immersion where I switched on the valve, and then I released my valve after the bloom, and I poured water, and then I closed it again for the last stage. And so what this does is that it increases extraction, but not only that, it allows me to control the end of the brew, which gives me more of the mouthfeel and the sweetness. Because with this coffee, with this Kenya, sometimes there can be a little too much acidity, and in order to find that sweet spot between a good balance, a good body, this is the method. Yes. So right now I'm at around 6.2. I'm gonna try how this tastes like. We can all taste this together. And usually what I like to do at home in the morning is that when I buy a new bag of coffee, go on my Femobook, take out my notebook, and then have like a reference of the grinds that I use with my past coffees, go to my grind setting, brew my coffee, taste it, and then eventually I'll adjust my grind size. Because I am a firm believer that I think grind size matters more than any other coffee variable. You can change your temperature, you can change your recipe, you can change your dripper, but it's not gonna make a big difference if you don't have a good grinder or if you're using the same grind setting. So this is something I actually learned from competition, from compulsory, which was one small grind size can either help enhance your coffee and bring out the clarity, or it can just close everything and mute it down. Okay, let's try some coffee together. And as I said earlier with this grinder, it highlights the sweetness, the brown sugar sweetness that I really enjoy. It gives me a better balance so that the acidity is not overpowering in this cup. But I also recommend, if you guys can wait for this coffee to cool down a little bit, then you'll enjoy the nice aftertaste. Oh, perfect. Enjoy. So you have some notes of peach, a little bit like brown sugar. It's a touch herbal as well.